Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kay. Today I'm going to be doing my September wrap-up. So I've already done one wrap-up for the Space Opera September Readathon. I will go over those books briefly in this video, but I'll link up above the Space Opera September wrap-up where I go into a bit more detail about them. I had a very poor reading month in September. There were a few books that kind of just bogged me down. I didn't care for them so much. And it just slowed down everything, and I ended up just not reaching for my books. I was doing kind of anything and everything else. I was doing Sudoku puzzles and watching TV and watching movies and literally anything other than reading. I was on my phone a lot. I'm not normally doing those things as much, and for whatever reason this month I think I was in a bit of a slump. Hopefully going into October that outlook will change, but we'll see. First thing, I'm going to go through stats. I am still trying to get through A Star Shall Fall by Marie Brennan. I am over halfway. I'm not going to get it finished tonight because I do have to go to bed at a decent time. This is going to be going up Tuesday, and I'm filming it Monday night because not only did I not read a whole lot, I've been really bad about getting things recorded. And I'm going to be heading to Cleveland tomorrow, so I'm not getting a super early start, but I do want to, be out the door by like 9. So I've got to get to bed, and I still need to not only film this, but then also edit it, get everything scheduled for upload for the week, because I'm going to be super busy all week. And so I'm probably not going to finish that book. I'm not including it on the stats for the month, even though I am over halfway. I'll kind of put that in, I guess, for next month with a little kind of star by it or something. So this is just going to be all of the books that I actually finished in September. We're going to start with stats. I wrote them all down. I am prepared. First thing, I read 9 books this month for a total of 2,006 pages. I'm embarrassed for myself. Normally I read close to 4,000 pages a month, and I only read 2,000. I did have 6 hours for an audiobook, but that book was only like 200 some pages anyway. I don't include audiobook pages in with my page count since I listen to them. I don't count that. So those I just kind of record how many hours I spent listening to books. For sources for my books, I got 6 of them from the library, and then I did read 3 online. I read some novellas, so I've done this previously before where I found novellas online and read them while I was at work. I did that this month. Yay! Format, I read 5 print books, 3 ebooks, and the audiobook. Demographic, I read 9 adult books and no YA books this month. For my genre breakdown, I read 5 sci-fi and 4 fantasy. It was Space Opera September, so I picked up quite a few more sci-fi books than I probably normally would have. So this month, sci-fi beat out fantasy. Star ratings, I had 3 5-star, 2 4-star, 3 3-star, 1 2-star, 0 1-star, and 0 DNFs. Now for the 2-star book, it's kind of hovering on it might drop down to a 1-star because the further I get from it, the more I hate it. So it's kind of a 1-star or 2-star. I didn't DNF any books this month. If I had not been doing the readathon, I would have DNF'd 3 probably. But I pushed through. Didn't love any of them. Didn't even particularly really like any of them. But I pushed through and I finished them, and I think that's why I had such a bad reading month. Because normally I would have just quit those books and I had to read them for the readathon, so I think that threw me off my game. Now I do have a new stat for this month. I normally keep track of it, but I did not include it in last month's wrap-up video, but I wanted to start adding it to mine going forward. So new authors. I read 4 new authors this month. So that's something that I like to keep track of just to see kind of at what frequency I'm picking up new to me authors rather than just reading the same kind of group of authors over and over again. I like to go out and find new books and find new favorite authors. So that's it for the stats. We're going to move on to kind of the little mini reviews. I don't have a ton because I haven't read a lot of books this month, so only 9. First book that I read this month was A Big Ship at the Edge of the Universe by Alex White. This was for Space Opera September, and I really love this book. This was a 5-star read. This was one of the highlights of my month, being at the very beginning of the month. It kind of set my hopes very high, and then they came crashing down later. I don't want to go into too much detail because, like I said, I did do a wrap-up for the readathon, but this book has 2 female main character, point of view characters. There is a murder that takes place, and so one of the characters witnesses that, and she's this kind of stuck-up, wealthy, just really obnoxious character you don't care for. She ends up being framed for it. Our other character is a former soldier. She's kind of down on her luck, sells fake star charts for like treasure, so it's like fake maps. They end up getting scooped up with an old crew, and they're off to find this big ship that a lot of people think is either not real or has been destroyed, or, you know, something like that. So it's kind of this lost sort of artifact almost. So you have that whole quest to try to find this big ship. At the same time, you have this sort of conspiracy type thing going on because there was that murder that our character has been framed for, so you have them kind of hot on their tail. It's very exciting, very space opera-y. I really enjoyed the characters. You have some rep in here. I think we have bi or lesbian rep. You have a little bit of, in the context of this world, one of the characters is kind of disabled because they can't use magic. There's a lot going on in this book. It reminded me a bit of The Expanse, just in the way it was kind of set up. You have like found families, and there's kind of this large scope, but you're still kind of focused in on this small group of people and how they're navigating while bigger things are happening outside of them. 5 stars, loved it, read it. Can't wait to get my hands on the second one. After Big Ship, I read Killing Gravity by Corey J. White. This was a novella, also for Space Opera September. You have Mars, Miriam Zai, she goes by Mars. She's a void witch. She is telekinetic. She can move things with her mind, and she can crush things with her mind and do all sorts of fun things. She was experimented on as a child, managed to escape the corporation people that had her, and has been kind of on the run, living super off the grid as much as possible. Then a bounty hunter comes after her, nearly kills her, and then she's out to find out who betrayed her, who sold her out. I gave this 5 stars as well. I had 2 really great books in a row. I think there are more in this novella series, so I'm a huge fan. I like novellas because they're quick, so if I'm having kind of a bad month or whatever, I can pick up something short and get through it and feel that little, like, burst of accomplishment and get a little high off of that, and then sometimes that can kind of push me out of a reading slump. So this is very good. 5 stars. Go read it. I loved it. Next, I read Grimm Space by Anna Guier. This was the 2-star book that's a 1-star book. I hated this book. I did a whole ranty, bitter review on this book. I will link it. I also did read this for Space Opera September, which is why I did not DNF it, because I would have DNF'd it after like 2 pages. Like I said, I've already ranted about it quite a bit. I'm not going to tell you what it's about because I think it was horrible, and I don't recommend it for literally anyone. Don't read this book. Just don't. Then I took a break from space operas, and I picked up The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. This is the 2nd book in the Dreamblood duology. I gave this book 5 stars as well. I loved it. I did a full review. I actually did 2. I did a non-spoiler review and then a spoilery review. I'll link those. So it is 2nd in a series. I'm not going to go too much into it, but it takes place 10 years after the end of Killing Moon, which is the 1st book, focusing on dream magic. This book has new characters, so you do get a couple of characters from the 1st books show up in here, and we do even get 1 or 2 chapters from one of their points of view. And they're kind of there throughout, but the main, like, plot of the book is not about them anymore. So now we have new characters. I did have a little trouble getting into this at the beginning. It took a little while to really catch my attention and get me invested. I'm not sure why, but same thing happened with the first book, I don't know. But I did end up loving it. So this story focuses on basically like a nightmare plague, and then you also have sort of a love story going on at one point, and politics, lots of politics. Just, it's very good. I think you should go pick it up and read, obviously, Killing Moon first. I like this and Killing Moon better than the other two series that I have read by her. So I've read Broken Earth and the Inheritance trilogy, both of those, and I like these better. So a lot of people really love Broken Earth, and that's kind of their go-to, but I honestly think these were better. I wish there were more books in this world and in this series, but unfortunately there's just the two. Then I went back to space opera and I picked up Ancestral Night by Elizabeth Bear. This was a 3-star read for me. I think it took me like 10 days to read this, which is exceedingly long. It is a bit chunky. It comes in right at like 500 pages, but there's still no reason it should have taken me that long. I had a hard time with this book. By the time I got to the end, I liked the story. I liked like the main plot. So you have this group of 3 characters who they operate a salvage tug, and they go out and they find salvage ships that have been lost or whatever, and they go and they find them and they bring them back and they get money. They get coordinates for some sort of mysterious object. They don't really know what it is, so they try to find it. Turns out it is some huge ship that belonged to an ancient alien prehistoric type of civilization, so they don't really know anything about, well, they know a little bit. They don't know a whole lot about this civilization, but there's this huge ship, and they're like, oh look, we're gonna like be set for life. And except that they're space pirates, and so they have to kind of run away from them and find out what's going on with this ship and what's going on with all of it, because something's up, right? My problems were that it got overly science-y, I guess. Like, the author was trying to explain why things were working, and I didn't need to know why. I don't need to know, you know, the intricacies of this, like, basically like a space elevator type of thing, or the fact that they travel through white space, which is basically just, their ship doesn't move, it kind of moves space around them, it folds the space around them, and so they can like move faster, so they're not technically in regular space. I don't need the metaphors and the explanations about why it works. I trust that it works, but there was a lot of that which slowed things down, especially at the beginning. And then there was a lot of like philosophical wanderings and musings that were repeatedly visited. So it's like they talk about it and then they talk about it again and then they talk about it again later, and it's like again and again and again. The overall core of the story I did find myself enjoying, but all of the other stuff that was in here just did not work for me, so I'm not continuing on with the series. Maybe, I'm sure that's some people's thing, like they enjoy the philosophical side of things, and you know, what does this implicate elsewhere or whatever, but I just wanted a good fun story, and this was not it for me. So this definitely contributed to my reading slump, because it took so long to read and it just kind of was not good. And then my last completed book for the month was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This is what I listened to on audio. This likewise took me a long time to read. I basically kind of read it listened to it in 2 kind of sittings, probably 2 weeks apart. I ended up going to Fort Wayne, took another like hour-long drive somewhere else, and that's kind of the only times I listened to it. I didn't care for it. I didn't find it all that funny. Not a ton, I felt like, happened. I mean, it's a short book, but I just didn't get it. Maybe I would like the movie more. My mom loves the movie. If you don't know what Hitchhiker's Guide is about, you have Arthur Dent and Ford Prefect. Arthur is human. Ford, unbeknownst to Arthur, is an alien. Basically, Ford gets Arthur off the planet before Earth is destroyed to make way for this, like, highway, outer space highway thing. They hitchhike on a ship, and they hitchhike on another ship, and nonsense happens, and it's just lots of nonsense again and again and again. There's a depressed robot who is mildly amusing, I guess, but he's just depressed all the time, and it's, I don't know. There were a couple, like, funny lines, but overall I just wasn't laughing. I don't think I like silly, absurd books, though, so that's really nothing to say about the book. Maybe it's just more to say about me. I just didn't find it funny, so therefore I didn't like it. 3 stars. Hey guys, so I just realized that I forgot to talk about the 3 ebooks that I read online for September. So I read 3 short stories, I guess, by Max Gladstone. I got them off of Tor.com. They have them on there for free if you want to go read them. I read The Scholast and the Low Waters Kingdom. I read Angelus Guns, and then I read Crispin's Model. Crispin's Model is kind of like a Lovecraftian, sort of, kind of, not quite horror, but a little, it's just kind of creepy and weird. It was alright. I'm not going to really talk about too much because they're extremely short. They're like 30 pages long, each one is. Angelus Guns was my favorite. I think I gave it 4 stars. It has to do with angels, kind of. And then Scholast in the Low Waters Kingdom, I gave 3 stars as well. It was alright. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to talk about because they're only 30 pages each. But if you do want to read them, I will link them in the description down below. You can read them for free. Tor has a bunch of short stories on there that you can just read right there on your computer. I read them at work one day when I didn't have a whole lot to do. So, back to the wrap-up. So, that's unfortunately all I read this month. I'm very sad. I'm hoping October is better because I've got some books that I am genuinely excited to read. So, I want to have a better reading month. I don't know. That's all I have for today. Thanks for sticking around. Like and subscribe down below if you want. Leave a comment if you have read any of these books. Let me know what you read this month. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!